What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hoops All In. If you guys are new, make sure you check us out on our social media. Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. As always, I'm your host, World's Francois, joined by my co-host Keith Bazin. Keith, man, what's going on? How you doing, bro?
I'm good. We got about a week left of the regular season and March Madness wrapping up, so we're getting towards playoff time, but I'm good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, man, NBA regular season is almost done. You just mentioned March Madness is wrapping up, but let's talk about the men's NCAA Final Four. We got Florida took down Auburn in a close game, but we also got to talk about Duke, man. What the hell is going on with the Duke Blue Devils? They were up, 10 points with about a minute, some change left, and they blew it. So Houston ended up beating them by 3. Cooper Flag missed a game. I think it was going to be a potential game-winning shot with about 10 or 8 seconds left to go. It was a turnaround fadeaway that didn't go in. Got called for a controversial over-the-back foul. Nonetheless, Duke still choked the game and gave it away. Would have made a difference in the final box score. But yeah, what do you think about Duke blowing the lead over to Houston? And we got our finals matchup set between the Florida Gators and the Houston, I believe it was the name Cougars or
Cougars,
Cougars, yeah, Houston Cougars,
maybe, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was surprising. I think when we got to the Final Four, a lot of people were picking Duke to take it home. I know that's what we said last week. I think we both had, but just shows why March Madness is madness. Even though again they're all one seeds, but I think Houston was probably the least picked out of the four that were remaining as of
Yeah.
yesterday or 2 days ago.
Mhm.
So I mean it's surprising. I mean Houston had 18 offensive rebounds, which to Duke's 10, I believe. Yeah. So hustling and getting second chance opportunities. If you can't close out on on a defensive possession, then you got to sit through another. What does the shot clock reset all the way in college? I'm not too sure,
I
but
think it probably resets to 14, the same as the NBA if you get your own offensive rebound.
but yeah, then you got to sit through at least another 14 seconds at most of, you know, playing defense versus again another number one seed. Just because Duke was picked here for most people doesn't mean that Houston's like this underdog team that'll just came out of nowhere. They're one seed too, but I mean Houston just outworked them, and I
Mhm.
mean you got to close possessions, and um I mean Cooper Flag had 7 rebounds. I mean Malawach really wasn't a factor in this game. He only played 21 minutes, had 6 points, no rebounds. So they just really got outworked as a whole. With Houston had 11 more rebounds total than Duke, so not surprising when you look at just numbers wise. But
Yeah, crazy. As I just mentioned again, Duke was up 7 points with about a minute 27 left to go. Final score was 70-67 in favor of Houston. Duke allowed Houston to score 13 points in a minute and 27 seconds. If that isn't a choke job, I don't know what is. The win probability when it was about a minute and 14 left, when Duke was up by 6 points, was 90.1.6%, 91.6%. How in the hell do you choke that? I don't know what's a bigger choke job. That or when the San Antonio Spurs blew that game 6 that eventually led up having a game 7 in Miami. I believe it was the 2013 NBA Finals. You can't let stuff like that happen. Absolutely ridiculous. Again, I see people blaming Cooper Flag for the loss because he missed a potential game-winning shot. It was a tough shot. It was a turnaround fadeaway, but that loss is on the Duke Blue Devils. Again, constant offensive rebounds. They were not able to box out. Houston kept grabbing offensive rebounds after offensive rebounds.
mhm.
Again, controversial call at the end, but at the end of the day, it still did not affect the fact that Duke blew that game 100%. So
Yeah.
now we got Florida versus Houston. And, I'm still going to go with the Florida Gators.
Yeah.
Again, they had a very, very close game against Auburn. Auburn's a great, team as well. All four number one seeds. Second time that happens since 2008. But I'm eventually going to go with the Florida Gators. But I am a little bit worried about now Houston having winning in that fashion. They have all momentum
Mm.
their way. And momentum is a dangerous thing in the world of sports. So you don't want to go and battle and face a team that's hot right now. It's like, yo, like we came back down from 7 with under a minute and 30 left to go. Yo, we could do this. We could win this game.
Yeah.
Stop them. They feel like they're on cloud 9, cloud 10, hell, cloud 100. So if I'm the Florida Gators, I'm a little bit worried about that with that momentum on Houston's side. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to who's going to make shots. Houston is a decent shooting team. Their defense is a little bit more, suffocating. But I'm going to go with the Florida Gators. But yeah, so that's what I
Yeah.
got.
I'm gonna play like devil's advocate though, is like there's a world like you don't want Houston to look at this and be like, oh yeah, we overcame Duke and we beat the powerhouse that Duke is,
Mm-hmm.
this 18-year-old phenom Cooper Flag and all the other lottery picks that are, projected to go, or even just first round picks in general. And that they are like, oh yeah, we did it, but you still got a game left. And I mean, Florida is Florida overcame, I mean, Auburn. I thought Auburn played really well in their game versus Florida. Johnny Broom didn't score a lot in the like last 10 minutes or so, which I think, is kind of why they fell short. But um I think I just hope Houston doesn't get absolutely pummeled by Florida too, because again, you don't want to see Houston be like, "Oh yeah, we overcame Duke in the Final Four," even though we weren't really underdogs. Like Houston, I think we're the underdogs in that game, and
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that we get a good I just hope we get a good final game tomorrow night. Um, and hopefully it's a closer score than what UConn did to South Carolina
Oh,
today too. I mean, UConn I mean, they beat 3 number 1 seeds. I saw they're only the 4th team to do that, in a tournament I think for the women's. I don't think it was for both, but, I mean, they dog walked South Carolina. It looked pretty close in the first half, but the second half they pulled away, with it. Even the game before, they beat UCLA by like 30 as well, who was another 1 seed, but and then the game before that, obviously, they played USC, but no Juju that game, which
mhm.
I think would have been a
A
great
different
game if
outcome.
she was there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, I'm gonna. I thought if Juju played in that game, I thought that would have been a different outcome. I thought Juju and the USC Trojans would have been holding up the trophy at the end of Sunday afternoon. But obviously, her injury changed the whole dynamic of the tournament because she's that impactful and phenomenal of a player. But we got to give it up to UConn Huskies, 12 national championships. They just completely blew the South Carolina Gamecocks out the water. It wasn't even close. Oh man, Paige Beckner, that is the only thing that was missing from her illustrious resume
yeah,
during her time as a UConn Husky. She's up there with the greats. I believe she's like top 5 in points scored in UConn history. I believe she's like top 5 in points scored in NCAA tournament history. She
mhm,
is just unbelievable. And the only thing for you to solidify yourself as a UConn great, you have to have a chip on your resume. You have to have that ring on your finger. And that
mhm,
was the only thing that was missing from her resume. She was able to capture it. And you could undoubtedly say that she's arguably one of, if not the best UConn Husky ever. But we also have to have a serious conversation that Gino Riemba, he has to be considered the best winner in North American sports, no matter what sports it is. It's
yeah,
women's college basketball, men's basketball, football, lacrosse, hockey. This man has 12, not one, not two, 12 national championships under his resume. He has so many rings that it doesn't even fill up both of his hands. I believe, and he's been doing this for so long. I believe it's like what, well over 30, 40 years. It's been
40.
and he's just so accustomed to getting to Final Fours. He's so
Mhm,
accustomed to holding up that trophy at the end of the night. Gino Auriemma is undoubtedly one of the greatest winners in North American sports history, men or women. 12 championships, 12 that's a lot, man.
yeah.
And he only gets again Final Fours championships. That's the standard at UConn. and he's able to do that. And again, when you're in a program, it's not like you're in professionals where you can continue to keep players, you can re-sign them. Every single year, it's a new team, new recruiting class. You have people leaving, graduating, transferring. Now it's a transfer,
Especially with the
and he
portal.
has to keep recruiting new players into his program. They have to buy in, especially you got these 5-star McDonald's on American Woman who's like, well, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And when you go to a program like UConn that's coached by a legendary Hall of Fame coach, he humbles you a little bit. It's like, no, like, yeah, you were good in high school, but this is a different level. I got championships on my resume. Whatever shit that you did in high school, that's cool. But now this is the big league or the big girl league. So I'm going to show you how to win the correct way. And man, shout out to Gino. I believe he's in his early 70s. Hopefully he continues to
Yeah.
do this, for another decade or so. Probably not, maybe another 5-6 years, and then you call it quits. But he loves coaching. Well, yeah, shout out to Gino. And like I said, Dawn 71, Dawn Staley. Listen, and she's still writing her book. She got 3 national championships under her resume. And this is just UConn getting revenge because they beat UConn back in 2022. So I believe they're now tied 1-1. Dawn Staley has a win over Gino. Gino has a win over Dawn Staley. I think that these two are heading on a collision course probably next year or years to come. But yeah, man, just unbelievable. Again, wish the game would have been a lot closer, more competitive. But that just shows the greatness that the UConn Huskies are and how great of a coach Gino Auriemma is.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive piece of that from Gino is he's 12-1. It's not like he's been to 18, 20,
Yeah.
which I think that would be impressive too. But I mean, he's 12-1, and these things now. He could recreate that Bill Russell photo if he wanted, with the having more than one ring on some of his fingers if he wanted to. But yeah, I mean, again, 12 now. Granted, again, 40 years, but I mean that just shows how great he's been. Because I mean, in college, you see all these people, switch it. Like the Maryland head coach just went to Villanova. All the coaches, seeking other opportunities. We saw, the other coach in UConn, Dan Hurley, was looking at Lakers last, summer. So, I mean, the fact that he's, been there since, early 90s, around that time, late 80s, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of the best winners there. And he's had some crazy talent go through there. I mean, some of the Hall of Famers that he's had through there. I mean, like Rebecca Lobo, Diana Taurasi, had some crazy people go through UConn. And even the people that are in that just recently got drafted, like Nafisa Collier, she just won, I think, Defensive Player of the Year last year for the W. So a lot of winning in his books. And yeah, finally Paige getting one after, in 2023, I think she missed the whole year because of an ACL tear.
Yeah.
And I mean, last year I think they got to the Final Four or maybe the Elite Eight.
I think Final Four, and they got
and they lost to, I think, was it Caitlin Clark? I think it was Iowa. I think they lost to Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great that she finally got one. And I mean, she's the projected number 1 pick in the W draft this coming year. So hopefully see where she can go. Too bad the Connecticut Suns weren't a worse team, or else it would have been awesome if she got drafted right by Connecticut again. But
yeah, stay home, she found a home in UConn. But also too, just UConn in general is a school of winning. You just looked at, they have a total 26 national championships in athletic history, 12 on the women's side, 6 on the men's side. The women just won this year. The last 2 previous years was the men with Coach Dan Hurley. So that program, men's and women's basketball, all they know is just winning. They're accustomed to winning championships and putting rings on their finger. So just shout out to the entire school and program as a whole. I know you're happy because you're up there, but yeah.
The funny part
UConn is a school of winners. They're a school of winners.
The funny part is our governor put up, like state signs saying the basketball capital, which is crazy.
He's not wrong.
But that's Massachusetts. That's our upstairs neighbor. Massachusetts, the birthplace of basketball. Obviously, it should be up there. But I understand. UConn. Obviously, like you said, the past 2 for the men. The women. They hadn't got one since 2016. But obviously, 12 within. Just Gino's time of 40 years is something. That's not going to be replicated. So. Next we saw two legends, Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, got inducted into the Hall of Fame a few days ago. I love it because when they were doing the top 75 players of all time, Dwight Howard, I believe, was one of the players that got left off of that list and was he was not very happy about it. And some other people weren't happy about it. I believe he was one of the first few people off, like him, and I think Clay Thompson was another close cut when they did that a few years ago. But I mean, Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, two thousands legends. They both have their stamp on this game. Dwight Howard was Defensive Player of the Year. Carmelo Anthony has scoring titles. I mean, what do you think about Carmelo and Dwight being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Well, first of all, we knew that once they retired, they were going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer without, well, it was going to be a no brainer. My only thing is because Carmelo retired in 2023, Dwight Howard retired, I believe, in 2022, something like that. They only been retired for 1, 2, 3 years because we're in 2025 and they're already eligible for the Hall of Fame. I thought usually you had to wait at least 4 or 5 years after you retired to be eligible. So maybe they recently changed the criteria. If they did, they should
Yeah,
have announced that to us because I could have sworn you had to wait at least 4 years. Because when Kobe retired in
yeah,
2016,
that's
he
exactly what I
wasn't
was
eligible
gonna
until
say.
what, like 2020, 2021
Right.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly.
I guess they must have changed their criteria. Maybe there's just not enough names that are eligible for the Hall of Fame now. But so that's just that point I want to make out. But going back to Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, as we already know, automatic first ballot Hall of Famers. Their resume speaks for itself. As again, Carmelo, man, the only thing that's missing from his resume is a league MVP and a championship. But outside of that, he's accomplished everything that there is. Going back to college, he led Syracuse as a
Yeah.
freshman to a national championship in 2003. If LeBron James was not in that draft class, Carmelo Anthony would have been easily the number one projected overall first pick. And
Mhm.
then again, he played for the Nuggets for about what, 03 to 11, played for the Knicks for 6 years. He didn't have great playoff success with the Knicks because the
Yeah.
Knicks did give up a lot to get him, and they just couldn't, recreate that formula, that magic or pre-Melo. But
Mhm.
you talk about career 20, almost 23-point scorer, 6 rebounds. He is what selected to 10 All Stars. He's a 3-time Olympic gold medal winner, named
Mhm.
to NBA top 75 team. I believe no, he four, yeah, no, 3 Olympic because I think in '04 they won the bronze, but he's a 3-time Olympic gold medal winner. He's named, USA Basketball Athlete of the Year in '06 and '16. Resume speaks for himself. I believe he's also top 25 in points scored in all time NBA history, something like
I
that.
think it's top
He's
10.
two-time second team. He's also an NBA scoring champion in 2013. So this dude, you look at his resume, of course he's a first ballot. Now Dwight Howard again, him being left off the top 75 team, we all know that was political. Maybe it had something to do with Dwight Howard's orientation because there were stories out there about his personal life. Obviously, we won't get into that. That's man's business. But when you are a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, you're also an NBA champion. You're
Mhm.
also a 5-time All First Team selection. You're also 8 All Star selections. You're also again, um, you know, Defensive Player of the Year, as I just mentioned 3 times over. Your resume speaks for itself too. It's like, oh yeah, that's automatically first ballot Hall of Famer. And the
Mhm.
fact that him, along with Kyrie Irving, both got left off the top 75 team anniversary list,
Yeah.
we
Yep.
know it was bullshit. Again, we know that it was all political. When you look at this dude's resume, it's like, oh yes, he should be in there his first chance that he gets. And I believe he just got inducted into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame as
Yes.
well. So yeah, incredible resume. I believe also again rebounding champion 5 times over. He's a block champion. He's also a slam dunk contest champion. He's Olympic gold medal winners. Like, come on, man. This just the resume is just outstanding. And again, he didn't go to college, but you look at him in high school. Georgia basketball player of the year. He was a first team McDonald's All American, unbelievable. So yeah, again, shout out to Carmelo Anthony. Well overdue. Even though they didn't have to wait that long, but well deserved for Carmelo and Dwight. And hopefully Carmelo Anthony will one day have his jersey retired by the New York Knicks. Even though he didn't have much postseason success, he brought back life to the Knicks franchise because they were finally able to have a not a star player, a superstar player. I believe like I just said, Dwight got his jersey retired. But yeah, hopefully the Knicks do right by Melo, and hopefully the Nuggets do right by Melo as well too. Now it's gonna be a little interesting because Do you retire both number 15 jerseys? Because Melo had a great career with the Nuggets, but Jokic has even had an even better career with the Nuggets. If I'm the Nuggets, you got to retire Jokic first. I don't know. I'm like, Melo, listen, I'm sorry. Maybe we could have two number 15s, 15.1 and 15.2. And you got a guy who's three-time,
Yeah,
league MVP and delivered your franchise its very first
yeah.
championships. Yeah, no, yeah, he's getting a statue and a jersey
Yeah,
retirement.
it's no question. You got to retire Jokic as 15. You can maybe retire Carmelo. Sometimes they do like wait. Sometimes with coaches they retire. They put a last name up there or something because coaches obviously don't have numbers. But like
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I think Carmelo will probably get something by the Knicks, but I mean he can't get 15 retired.
Yeah,
There's
no,
no way. So,
yeah,
but yeah, and the year thing, it is weird that like I think you did have to wait because Kobe got inducted after he had passed.
yeah.
I remember I think Jordan did it on his behalf with his
Mhm.
wife and stuff. So that was strange. But yeah, I don't know why they changed it. Carmelo is 10th all time in scoring too. By the way,
Yeah.
he is only 700 points ahead of that boy James Harden from taking that 10th spot, but hey, I mean, he's still one of the greatest scorers ever. But so yeah, I think they're both obviously legends, and they both deserve it. And yeah, Dwight just got inducted into Orlando's Hall of Fame, and I feel like Dwight Howard was really the last like center of that era, the traditional center, he couldn't, yes, but well, with his time, in Orlando and obviously his early stops, he wasn't a shooting big man. He was a straight up, dominate the paint on the offensive and defensive side. Like we said, three-time defensive player of the year isn't just given to anyone. So, I think Dwight Howard was the last of those like superstar big men, interior forces of centers that, and now obviously the center is a completely different position than what it was back then. But yeah, Carmelo and Dwight are now Hall of Famers. I did find it funny though, before we move on, that Dwight said he wanted for the people to be at his ceremony. I don't know if you saw this, was Kareem, Kevin Garnett, and Shaquille O'Neal. And obviously Shaquille O'Neal does not like that man. So
I don't know what is the dynamic of the relationship. They have like a love-hate relationship because it all started with Shaq just trashing Dwight's career every chance that he get.
yeah,
Because Shaq is seen as like a big man hater. But and then one day they're cool. Shaq's like, oh yeah, I love Dwight. Dwight's like, I love Shaq. And then it's like, oh fuck you, Shaq, fuck you, Dwight. I
yeah.
don't their relationship is strange.
I think it's more of a Shaq hates Dwight.
Yeah, more
Dwight
so
loves
Shaq hate, yeah.
because obviously the whole Superman right. Shaq was Superman. He's got the whole tat on his shoulder and everything. And then Dwight was pretty much called Superman. They had pretty similar careers. They started off in Orlando, did
Mhm.
great things for Orlando, went to LA, won rings. That was a tradition through both of them. That they went to LA with Kobe and won, but or well, I guess Dwight didn't actually win with Kobe when he was there, but he went to LA,
Yeah.
right, just like how Shaq did. So it was kind of like over, it was clashing things. Because if we're being honest, Dwight Howard, I think, was the better Orlando Magic. Because
Oh,
again,
easily. Yeah, he
Shaq
had a
was
better
only
career.
there for his first like 4 years or something.
Mhm.
He obviously didn't get 3 defensive player of the years like Dwight did and stuff. So, um, but yeah, um, Luka Doncic is going to make his return to Dallas on Wednesday with his new team. Now, this is thankfully, I think, a game where Luka will be playing because the West is so jam-packed in the middle of with all the seedings. I think Anthony Davis has been healthy. He's been playing pretty good, I think, since he has returned. Obviously, there will be no Kyrie in this game, but if AD and Luca are both playing, because again, the Lakers want to be able to keep their stay out of the play-in, because if they lose too many games, they could fall obviously to the play-in, and then Dallas is the ninth seed, but they're only a game above Sacramento, so I mean, it doesn't mean too much for Dallas because they're pretty much guaranteed to have a ninth or 10th seed for the play-in. But I mean, all these games for the Lakers are big, wins to make sure they stay out the play-in. But do we think Luka's going to have a crazy game, or is it going to be more of an overhyped thing and Luka's just going to have a genuine, like a normal performance?
Well, obviously, when they first played the Dallas Mavericks after that blockbuster trade, that was in LA. Anthony Davis didn't play. Luka
Mhm.
had a crazy triple double. I think it was like 17, 10, and 10 plus. I
Mhm.
think Luka's gonna go bonkers. First game back since the trade, playing in Dallas. Obviously, like you mentioned, it's a little bit different. No Kyrie, but the fans are gonna show Luka nothing but love and respect because of what he done for not only the Dallas Mavericks franchise leading them to the finals last year, but for the Dallas, Texas region, for the community. He is well beloved over there. And again, he didn't ask to be out. It was
Yeah.
Nico Harrison and the owner of the team, I believe Patrick Dumont, who made that stupid trade for God knows whatever the reason is, whether it was came from the NBA office to get more ratings or revenues or eyes on the product,
Mhm.
whatever that is. But they made that trade, which is still a head scratcher. But I think Luka's going to want to go bonkers, especially when Nico's going to be courtside. Owner's going to be courtside. Most likely, Mark Cuban is going to be there. Maybe Dirk Nowitzki will come popping because he flew out to LA to
I'm
go
sure
watch
he will
Luka's
be.
debut with the Lakers. But I think Luka's going to try to go for a triple double. I believe he's going to have a stat line of like 30, 15, and 10, maybe 30 or 30, 15, and 12. 30 points, 15 rebounds, or 15 assists. 10, 11 points or 10, 11 rebounds. I think he's gonna try to, show like, hey, like, yeah, you guys are obviously getting fucked up trading an all-world superstar talent like me. And I think every time he touches the basketball and he attempts a shot, he's gonna get cheered because again, they love Luka in Dallas. They will continue to love him. And this was a guy again who many fans in Dallas expected to have a not only his jersey retired, but when you call it statue outside American Airlines Arena, and that didn't happen. But yeah, I think Lou's gonna want to go crazy and send a message loud and clear to Nico Harris, like, yeah, you guys fucked up, and we all know he fucked up, but
Right.
especially this season for the Dallas Mavericks is a waste. Kyrie Irving's done with the ACL. Anthony Davis, yeah, he's playing, but I believe he's also nicked up with injury, so he got poked in the eye not too long ago. Just came back from his adductor. Dallas Mavericks is going to be a playing team, so they're not really playing for anything. They're not going to make a deep playoff run, especially with they're one of their horses, they're the face of the franchise, not playing due to injury. And we'll see when and if how he comes back post ACL surgery, post ACL rehab. But yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. Again, everybody's gonna talk about it because it's Luka return, but I think Luka's gonna want to put some belts to asses to Nico and Patrick Dumont.
Yeah, I think it's going to be such a mix of emotions because, like, right, obviously he's going to get a video at the
Mhm.
beginning of the game. And I mean that video could be hours long if they wanted it to be with everything
Yeah.
he's done. Again, even though obviously he didn't get an MVP or a ring there, but I mean he's like he was on pace to just like smash Dirk in being the Mavs best player of all time. I
Mhm.
think, I mean, Dirk got an MVP. He obviously got that ring that meant so much, obviously then. But I think Luca was on his way to winning more than one MVP and probably more than one ring too. Even though it's so hard to get a ring now, with all the roster turnaround, but
Mhm.
Luca went through some rough times in his early years, not having too much help because Luca was such a great player from the start that, they drafted Luca, and then he was good enough to pretty much get you into the play-in slash playoff area, because like obviously play-in wasn't around right when he got drafted, but they were never good enough to, get more, lottery picks to build around him. Obviously, they had Jalen Brunson, who was drafted in the same year, who was a second round pick, but obviously he wasn't who Jalen Brunson is now. They had Dennis Smith Jr., who I think was the year right before Luca. Obviously, he didn't turn out to be anything amazing either. But I mean, they're really their best lottery pick was Derek Lively a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and that was a couple years ago, which was probably pretty much 5 years into his career. Obviously, he got Kyrie for a few years there. They made the finals last year. Obviously, they took down some giants in that playoff run. They beat the 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder. They beat the Timberwolves, who had the best defense in the league last year, and then they took a game from my Celtics in the finals, but obviously it wasn't enough to you know, get the ring. But I think he's going to be, happy when he gets there. But when he gets the game time, he's going to, he's going to be seeing red. He's going to want to go crazy. And, like I think he will go crazy, like you said, because Luka's one of those players where he doesn't have too many really bad games too often. And I'm sure he'll make sure he doesn't have a bad game versus the Mavericks. But again, it's so weird because obviously his, anger slash emotion isn't at the fans or anything. It's at, Nico Harrison and the owners of the Dallas Mavericks who, shipped him away for, a 31-year-old Anthony Davis who got hurt in his debut as well for the Mavericks. So, I think it'll definitely be fun to see again. Hopefully everyone, hopefully LeBron and Luca are playing, and then hopefully AD plays because again, seeing AD playing against LA will be great too. Because AD wasn't healthy for the first time they played.
No,
So,
he wasn't. He was hurt.
right.
Yeah.
So Anthony Davis will get his first time playing against LA, hopefully, but we'll see how it goes. I think is it more like who would have the better game though, Luca or
I, I
AD?
think it's I think it's gonna be Luca. Like I said again, he already had a game, had a triple double, but that was in LA. But he's more you. There's more anticipation and excitement when you play your former team at that
Yeah,
arena, at that location. And again, Anthony Davis is again, yeah, he also was playing against his former team, but it's not in LA. If he did play in LA the first time around when he wasn't
yeah,
hurt, I think he would have had a better game than Luca.
right.
But yeah, I think Luca's gonna go crazy. He's gonna look to go crazy.
And it's the messed up part about this trade is people treat AD like he's just nothing, a part of
Mhm.
this trade. But in this trade, obviously he's the worst talent as of right now
Yeah.
in the trade, but like he's a top 75 player of all time too. He's probably a top 10 power forward of all times when it's said and done. And he's a great player, but again, when you look at what he was traded for, it's like it's almost not comparable, and it's crazy because AD I think is still when healthy a top 10 player in the league. So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
we'll see how that goes. Let's talk. We got about a week left of the regular season before playoffs happen, and a lot of teams aren't in their spot of where they will be, especially out west. But we're going to talk about some teams that have cemented themselves in the playoffs and maybe some matchups that we would like to see in the first round. um First we'll see. So Cleveland and Boston are 100% cemented in the playoffs, Cleveland being the 1 seed, Boston being the 2 seed, and the Knicks also have pretty much secured the third seed out east. The last few, and then we also just heard earlier today that the play-in is also set out east. That the 4 teams that will be in the play-in is Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago, and Miami. A lot of the regular teams that have been there over the past few years between like Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta. But the only real things that are up in the air is Detroit, who's the 6th seed, Milwaukee, and then Indiana.
Mhm.
And as of what it is right now, Indiana Milwaukee will be a first round matchup again, and we know that that's a little bit of a, not necessarily rivalry, but they've had their moments over the past few years, whether it was, when Giannis scored like 64 and wanted the game ball a couple
Mhm.
years ago, or the playoffs. They roll or the in season tournament as well. They've had a lot of moments against each other, and I think that would be great series to a great series to see. Um, but and with the way that if the Pistons do stay as the 6th seed, they would be playing the Knicks, which would be a rough first round matchup for Detroit. But I mean, Detroit, I think, is just happy to be here at this point. So
Yeah.
what are some East, are there really any East matchups you want to see, whether they're play-in teams against, either Cleveland or Boston, or, any of those, 4 through 6 teams?
Well, right now, let's just say, because it seems like the playing teams are always the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Miami Heat,
Right.
even Orlando here and there. I would be interested to see a matchup between the 3 and 6 seed if that stays. Obviously, again, that might change, but between the Knicks and the Pistons, I think there's also a little bit brewing rival over there. New York versus the Motor City, and Detroit is no team to sleep on. Again, arguably going to have the coach of the year in JB Bickerstaff. They had their best season in years, 43 and 35. They're about like what 9 games or so, or eight games or so over 500, something like that.
Mm,
And
yeah.
they're Rough Riders. They're kind of reminiscent. I'm not saying that they are, but they're giving vibes and reminiscent of the bad boy Detroit Pistons with their physicality and how
Mhm.
soft the NBA is and how watered down it is. They're doing the best that they can without going overboard to make it known, like, hey, you're gonna play us, you're gonna get some bruises, you're gonna get some bumps, we're gonna hard foul you, make you know, like, we ain't a team that's just gonna be walked over no more. The
Mhm.
Pistons are no longer a laughing stock of the NBA. It all starts with Isaiah Stewart. And when you look at his highlight, you feel like this guy just wants to fight all the time. I don't think his highlights filled with fights and being in scuffles and confrontations more than putting the ball in hoop. And again, that he starts, the toughness. Also, again, they got that Jalen Duran. Also, again, is a big body as well. Malik Beasley, those Sir Thompson. Those guys, they'll get in your face, and they're all doing this without Jaden Ivey, as I might add
Mhm.
too, who's
Yeah.
not playing this year because of a injury. So, I like that they brought some veterans in there as well with Tobias Harris, Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr. So they got a mix of vets and young players. And again, Cade Cunningham, face of franchise, finally blossoming into the star player that they wanted him to be and projected him to be. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup out in the East between the Knicks and the Pistons. Now again, you look at possibly the 2 and the 7 seed. Again, this if this stays how it is, so
Mhm.
with the playing the tournament, that'll be between the Celtics and the Magic. That will be a little bit interesting. Again, Magic, they came in the season hot, but injuries hobbled them. They're starting to get some of their players back healthy. But
Mhm.
again, it's all about matchups. So I'll be interested to kind of watch that. Paolo, see how he would go up against Brown and Tatum.
Mhm.
Other than that, again, you look at the 1-8. I think Cleveland is going to smoke the Hawks. You look at the 4 and the 5, as you just mentioned, Pacers Bucks. Like, yeah, okay, a little bit of a rivalry there, but not really an interest because again, Pacers have had really a down year. Even though they're in fourth, we expected a lot more from this team, more promise, especially them adding Pascal Siakam with the Tyrese Halliburton, who kind of, I wouldn't say regress, but hasn't really had a year that we would expect him to be, especially him being a first time All Star a couple years ago. Bennington Mathurin is still improving. I like Nimhard, I like Obi Toppin and stuff like that. So, I watch it because of the little, history between them. But I think the most interesting matchup for me will be a 3-6 between the Knicks and the Pistons.
Yeah, I agree. With the Pistons, I mean, and Isaiah Stewart, he's really a like he's a good piece to them too. Like he really contributes over there because he's pretty much the backup five. Plays some big ball four if they need to sometimes. And yeah, like you said, they've just got Ron Holland and Asar Thompson. I love having them out there because again, I've said it before, but I feel like that for the prototype of like the Thompson twins or like how Ron Holland is, where they're just like sure they don't have the jump shot at all for what you would want, but they've got literally everything else. They're insane athletes. They're great defenders. They're not going to back down. They're strong. They're fast. And again,
Mhm.
the fact that they can send them both out there at the same time, two guys who have like negative jump shots, and Cade still makes it work and everything. Like you said, no Jaden Ivey, which is a good part this year. I really am intrigued to see what his future looks like with this team if he has one,
Mhm.
because again, I think when you talk about Cade, you want to have guys like Malik Beasley, who is one of two players to have 300 threes made this year, him and Anthony Edwards.
Mhm.
He made the most threes for the Pistons in a season earlier this year, but I think he's a guy you like want to have more around Cade because again, Jaden Ivey isn't the greatest shooter in the world either. I don't know exactly what his numbers are, but I would assume he's around average or just below average from three. Um, but then again, he is another ball handler, which you would like to see in Detroit too. So Cade doesn't have to do literally everything by himself. But
Mhm.
So I agree with that. Again, the 7-8 matchup as of right now is the Magic and the Hawks. As a Celtics fan, I would hope for the Hawks to win that because I know we probably won't have a problem with the Hawks, but the Magic, with if Franz and Paolo are both playing, those are some big wings. And again, the teams that Boston, in theory, would have struggle with are guys that can guard and that are big wings because our two best players are, obviously Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So again, they won't have Jalen Suggs because he's been out. He's out for the year. Mo Wagner as well, but I would hope that the Hawks would win that game to make, our first round matchup as easy as possible, or to hope that Chicago overtakes the Hawks because they have the same exact wins as of right now, and the Chicago Bulls win that. But I agree. I do think that I mean the Pacers Bucks, honestly, I don't know how that goes if Dame doesn't play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, true. That's gonna be
Because I mean, the Pacers, they did just make the conference finals last year. Now, granted, they went through some injury riddled teams too, like when Brunson broke his hand with the Knicks, and then did they? I think they beat the Bucks in the first round last year too. So
yeah.
they had to play. They've played some teams too. I think they're a pretty deep team as well. So I do think that the 4-5 matchup for me is probably it is the Bucks and Pacers. That's pretty much another must see round. But um, that is the probably least you know entertaining conference left. So out west, I mean, obviously OKC is 100% in. They've been in for a long time. They're going to be the 1 seed. The Houston Rockets are 100% in the playoffs too. They will be the 2 seed unless they go like 0-5 over their last few games this year, which I can't imagine they will be. But other than that, I mean, the 3 seed through like the 8th seed, it's all up in the air for people to move around. And I mean, it's crazy because we've got, as of right now, the Lakers are the 3 seed, the Nuggets are the 4 seed, the Warriors are the 5th seed, the Timberwolves are 6th, Clippers 7th, and Grizzlies 8th. And while I do think that, everyone says that the West is the better conference, right? They've got more teams that are better out in the West than there is in the East. And this might be something a lot of people not agree with that I'm about to say, but I think the East has more contending, like true contending teams than the
Really?
West does. Because if you think about like if all the teams were healthy, right? Cleveland, Boston, I think the Knicks would be a contender if they were completely healthy with Brunson and everything. I think the Bucks still have to be looked at that as a potential contender, having Dame and Giannis, even though again they've been hurt, they haven't had the success, but I mean, if you look out west, I mean, obviously the Thunder are contenders. You look at the Nuggets still could be contenders, right? But other than that, are we certain on any of these other West teams that are 100% contenders and are going deep in the playoffs?
I mean, well, again, you mentioned, the Nuggets, uh, give or take. I think right now, I believe Aaron Gordon is dealing with the injury,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Yeah, I think a nagging injury.
Yeah,
Like,
nagging injury, same thing. Murray is in and out. But if you look at, like I said, the West, obviously OKC, you just mentioned their title
right.
contending team. Houston is probably a year or two away. They're young. The
Mhm.
Lakers, they could make a run all the way, to the conference finals, if not the finals. They're again third. Golden State is clicking on all cylinders right now with Jimmy Butler. I believe they're like 18-2 with when Steph and Jimmy both play. Minnesota's starting to find their groove, especially now with Randall being in the lineup. So that's like four solid teams. Clippers, I don't think the Clippers going anywhere. But yeah, the OK Thunder could win it all. The Lakers could win it all. The Nuggets, again, depending on the health of Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, Warriors could win it. So that's 4 teams right there, along with Minnesota.
Right.
I,
But like I said, the West definitely has more better teams because there are a lot of really bad teams in the East.
mhm.
Even the teams that are making the play in for the East are really not that good, like the Bulls and the Hawks and things like that. But so you're telling me you would be surprised if the Lakers lost in the first round since they're going up against the Timberwolves, or like if the Warriors are going up against the Nuggets, which it is as of right now, I
Yeah.
mean, like to me, when you talk about a contender, like if a contender loses in the first round, it's like a oh god, like oh no, they lost, and maybe that does contradict what I'm saying because obviously the West does have, like the 3-6 out West is the Lakers Timberwolves, which is more of a fight than the 3-6 out East, which is the Knicks and the Pistons. But I think that like the Lakers, I wouldn't be too surprised if they fell in the first round because I don't think they're a guaranteed contender. Same with the Warriors. I mean, even honestly, I mean, if the Nuggets lost in the first round to the Warriors too, it's I wouldn't be too surprised because the Warriors have been clicking, like you said. So that's what I mean by, I think that the East has more contender type teams because again, the Rockets are the second seed. Nobody looks at them as a contender. The Grizzlies are not in the playoff. They're in the play-in as of right now, but they're not a contender. And again, I think the Lakers, Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Warriors wouldn't all be considered as contenders to me. That's just, I mean, now maybe again, if this team they had whole seasons together for the Lakers or the Warriors case, then maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of those four teams fell in the first round because obviously, if the playoffs stayed like how they are, at least two of them are going to fall in the first round because they're playing each other. So,
Well, yeah, again, seedings and matchups do play a part of it, but like, again, could kind of go back to what you said with like the whole contradiction part. Like, okay, if the Nuggets 4 or 5 seed Nuggets, the Warriors going to face. Honestly, at this point right now in the season, either team could beat each other. I would be
right,
surprised if the Warriors beat the Nuggets or if the Nuggets beat the Warriors, vice versa. So now, same thing again. Houston is going to beat Memphis. We all know that. Rockets are going to go up against the Clippers. I like the Rockets over the Clippers because again,
yes,
inconsistencies will help. So
hmm
okay, so you still got Houston may be a title contender team because if you look at their record, 51-27, they're having an outstanding year. But because again they're so young, that's the only linchpin against them. But record-wise, you also put Houston as a title contender. As we all know, they're not there. But then
hmm
I say Lakers 3 against the 6. I think that they're going to beat Minnesota. So you still have going into the second round, 3 teams still that are title contention. Now, if you compare it to the Eastern Conference, when again you got 1-8. We don't know if Cleveland is going to win. Go ahead. Compared to the 1-8, okay. Realistically, because of the injury to Dylan Brunson, don't know when he's coming back, and the Pistons are right now 6-4 in the last 10 games. They could realistically beat the Knicks. It can happen because of that,
right,
because of not having
yeah,
Jalen Brunson. So Knicks are a title contender team. They could lose in the first round. Not saying it's going to happen, but it could happen. Now you only look like okay, it's only 2 teams. It's the Celtics and the Cavs that come out. And now again, it would be more with the Bucks, but don't know when Damian Lillard's coming back
right,
because
yeah, and obviously,
blood
again,
clot. So that's
like I,
another yeah. So
like I
that's
said,
what I said.
injuries still
I
are
see
a
what you're
part of it.
yeah, I see what you're saying. It does make sense again because again, matchups and seedings do play a factor. In the first round, like 2 of the 4 or 5 teams in the East that are title contention teams could be bounced out. But again, you look at the East, it's like okay, well, also same thing. There's more title, same thing in the East Conference because the Knicks could lose in the first round. The Bucks was it? It could be was it 4 or 5? They could also lose in the first round too because without Dame, all you gotta do is just build the wall against Giannis. Do you trust Bobby Portis to get you to the series? You know what I mean? Obviously,
You're
Giannis
right.
gonna put up his numbers, but it's a different dynamic when you have another all-world player, and we don't know when Dame's coming back.
Right, but the right, which is why I did say, like, if healthy, for sure, which
Yeah,
is why I don't think the Bucks and the Knicks are necessarily contenders this year, but I'm saying, like, if everyone is healthy, like, if the Knicks were completely healthy, they should have, like, in my mind, they should have no problem versus the Pistons.
yeah,
Like, if the
easily.
Pistons won, then that's a serious, like a oh shit thing because the Pistons just beat the Knicks. And like honestly, if the Bucks were completely healthy, Dame and Giannis wise, if Bobby Portis wasn't suspended, if Brooke Lopez was good to go and Kyle Kuzma, in my mind, the Bucks should completely dog walk the Pacers, even though the
Mhm.
Pacers have given them problems. So, but out out west, I mean, I don't think that the Lakers would dog walk the Timberwolves. I think there's a real conversation there that the Timberwolves could beat the Lakers in the first round if that's
Yeah,
what the playoffs
absolutely.
thing was. Same with the Warriors Nuggets matchup, which is why I can't say that the Warriors or the Lakers or whatever team out west you want to use except for the Thunder are serious contenders because there's a real world that they lose in the first round. And if you lose it, and if you're expected to lose maybe in the first round, then I don't really know how much of an overwhelming contender you are if people see a world where you can lose in the first round.
Mhm.
Now, maybe that's just how I see it. Again, a lot of people probably won't agree with that. But it's just kind of, what I'm saying, what I was seeing is like, if everyone was healthy, I think the better teams up top are out east. Now, obviously, the teams 6 through 10 are better, right? The Grizzlies, the Clippers, the Timberwolves are all better than Orlando or Atlanta or Detroit. So
Mhm.
again, I agree that the West overall has better talent because even if you look at teams that aren't making the playoffs, Wemby and the Spurs, they'll be in the play-in next year if everything goes right. Then
Or
depending on
playoff team, yeah.
what their lottery picks look like this year. I mean, Phoenix isn't even making the play-in, and they've got Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So again, the West is definitely the overwhelming overall better conference. But I think you look at the up top teams. I think there would be more teams classified as real contenders out east by the majority of people.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's a valid
but
point.
again, that I went on a tangent, but
Mhm.
so, again, the what are some first round matchups in the West that we would like to see? Because again, really the only thing that we have cemented is the Thunder is the 1 seed, the Rockets are the 2 seed, and then the Mavericks and Kings are going to be the 9-10 game for the play in. But
Yeah,
everything 3 through 8 is up in the
TBD.
air.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, since everything is up in the air, TBD with seating still set to be set. We're just gonna go for I'm just gonna go with it based off right now, currently standing at this point in time. It would be interesting to see. It's a lot of good matchups. It will be interesting to see, man. I would say the Thunder, the 1-8, Memphis against OKC. I would say I think OKC is going to win, but that Shea versus John Morant matchup, I think is going to be must see TV. Two young dynamic guards in their prime, both athletic, both can defend. That's going to be a thing to watch, especially to the inside presence of OKC, and I want to see how Chet will match up against Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. Same thing, Jalen Williams matching up against Desmond Bain. So that's something I would definitely like to watch. Again, you mentioned the 4 and 5. You got the Nuggets and the Warriors. You got possibly also another league MVP. Even though I was going to go to Shea going up against Steph. So Jokic versus Steph is always a great matchup. Lakers and Timberwolves, I think it's also would be good as well too. Luca going up against Ant Man, LeBron going up against Ant Man. I think the Lakers will get dog walk them in 5-6. I think it'll be like a gentleman's sweep. Rockets and Clippers would be interesting to see how the Rockets do. How they will look in
Mhm.
the first time in the playoffs with this young core, being favored to win against a team. Even though again the Clippers started the season injuries, but they're a more seasoned vet team. They have Harden there, Kawhi Leonard there, Norman Powell there. How are they going to be able to handle the pressure against a team who's been in the playoffs? Well, individual players who's been in the playoffs, some of them have championships, made deep playoff run. How are they going to be able to overbat that? So yeah, I think the 1-8 right now, OKC versus Memphis is going to be must see for me. That's number one. Two would be Nuggets versus Warriors, and three would be the Rockets versus the Clippers. I'm going to take off the Lakers Timberwolves because I think the Lakers will win. But I definitely would like to. I would definitely tune in to watch the Rockets and the Clippers.
Yeah.
What about you?
I agree. I think if the Nuggets somehow went up to number 3, like if the Nuggets won and the Lakers dropped, that means we would get a Lakers Warriors first round matchup in the
Cool.
first round because the Lakers are only a game above the Nuggets for that
Mhm.
3rd seed. So, and I think that honestly could happen. I think that Denver is probably the better team between Denver and LA. So I think Denver could take that 3 seed with the last few games left of the season. And I think if we saw LeBron versus Curry in the first round again, first of all, it would be crazy because two new looking teams who have been on a roll with their new players, obviously with that being Luka for the Lakers and Jimmy for the Warriors. But I mean, I think that they would have trouble guarding each other. I think we talked about this last week. Like, the what are the Warriors going to do when they have to guard, Luka and LeBron? I think Jimmy and Draymond, right, will be the two primary guys, because they're their defensive leaders over there. But what are the Lakers doing to guard to guard? Because you got to think your top three in some, whatever order is Luca, Reeves, and LeBron. I don't know if I want any of those three chasing around Curry. So, I think that would be a super intriguing matchup. That would then mean that the Nuggets would play the Timberwolves, which we saw last year. Timberwolves took down the Nuggets last year, so that would be another good thing. So I think we're really like one, team switch away from having like a perfect playoffs with those, 3 through 6 seeds. But with as it stands now, I agree. I am very intrigued to see what the Rockets do this postseason because again, we've talked about them a lot, and the Rockets don't have that 1A guy that, they're kind of doing it by team and by majority, between Jalen Green, Sengun, Amen Thompson. They just have a lot of really good players, and that's what's
Mhm.
prevailed them to be the second seed pretty much going into the playoffs and pretty much destroying all expectations they had this year. But I'm excited to see. I think they could beat whoever wins in the 7-8 between the Grizzlies and the Clippers. And then that would mean they would go up against the winner of the 3-6 matchup, which again, as of now, is Lakers Timberwolves. And I think the Rockets could make a conference finals appearance, man. If they get the luck of having no injuries and they're playing how they play, I think that the Rockets could really, could get to the conference finals because I saw a thing that they are the only team to beat the Thunder and the Cavs twice this year, at least twice this year.
Wow.
And the Thunder and the Cavs obviously are the, only 60 win teams as of now. They're the two, best records in the league. But I mean, the Rockets, they have a people always talk about the Thunder with their futures looking bright, obviously, with having Shea, Chet, and J-Dub and all the draft picks. But Houston's got a lot of options that they can do, man, going forward,
Mhm.
whether they do acquire a tier one guy or they just stick it out with who they have and they kind of do it by majority. I mean, it could be one of those teams that if they do make a finals in like 3 years and they have a similar core, I couldn't predict who the finals MVP would be because it could be Sangoon if Sangoon, is getting close to triple doubles every game. If Amen Thompson's guarding the best player and he's getting, 15, 10, and 8 every day. If Jalen Green averages 30 for a playoff series, like any of those guys could win a conference finals MVP or a finals MVP if that was to happen a few years down the line. So
Mhm.
I think to me, Houston is the team that I'm looking forward to the most this playoffs out west, but just because they're a new team, right? The Rockets haven't had a lot of, success since since Harden has left, and they're kind of this is obviously their first time being in a playoff contention. So they're to me who I am really paying a lot of attention to out west, but they're also to me in the same boat as the Pistons, or like if they lose in the first round, then hey, they're happy they made it. There weren't really expectations for them this year, so um, I think that they could do no wrong, no matter how this postseason goes for them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely would be nice to see a three. And like you said, the Timberwolves moved up a little bit, and the Nuggets slid down to like another 4 or 5 matchup. Because I think the Timberwolves have had the Nuggets number the past 6 games, going back to last year's playoffs. So kind of seems like can the Nuggets get their revenge on Minnesota? But yeah, again, the Lakers, Warriors, Steph versus LeBron matchup with Jokic, not Jokic, Doncic and Butler on the team too as well. That's a whole new different dynamic. So yeah, I didn't think of that. Should be interesting. Again, we got a whole lot of moving parts in the West, so it might come down to literally the last day of the regular season for things to
Yeah,
finally
it
get set.
might. And obviously, we'll next week we'll do more of our kind of predictions going into the playoffs because it'll be more set in stone. But as of right now, what is your predicted finals looking like?
I'm still gonna go with the Thunder and the Celtics. I think you got an OKC having a little bit of playoff experience, having to presume the MVP and Shea. I think they're gonna
Hmm.
get it done. Again, Boston right now is looking like an unbeatable team. But I want to have two picks because right, Cleveland, man. I also said it too in our episode not long ago. I think this Cleveland Cavaliers team, because again, NBA playoffs is all about matchups. I think this Cleveland Cavalier team getting the addition of DeAndre Hunter and having wings who can defend. Donovan Mitchell, catch and shoot guy. I think that not catch and shoot, but can get to the rim. He's very, very athletic. I think that this Cleveland Cavalier team, they match up size wise, wing wise, guard wise to beat Boston. So that's my only concern. So I'm gonna go OKC definitely coming out the West, and I got either Celtics / Cleveland Cavaliers coming out
All
the
right.
East.
Well, let's do this. Let's back it up. Let's
Okay.
say so we're saying that Boston and Cleveland. I think there's no way that's not our conference finals matchup
Yeah,
this year,
yeah.
because again, the Knicks and the Bucks aren't really to their health level that they would want to be as of right now. Brunson is supposed to return though, soon. I saw, but let's say we got conference finals, Cleveland versus Boston. Um, obviously we can't really predict what injuries might look like, but um we'll say, I mean, for the sake of it, I guess we can say everyone's healthy. Cleveland's got no issues. They've got their big four and whatnot out there, and then the Celtics, they've got everyone. I assume they've gone through some injuries with Drew and Porzingis towards the end of this season that are kind of just nagging, and I think they're just honestly they're saving them for the
Hmm.
playoffs. Even Jalen Brown's got like some knee bone bruise or something that he's going through right now. But if we have everyone healthy, what does that series look like? Like how many games? What are the most important factors? Anything that might put one team over the other, and why? Well, like,
I think, well, the X factor, if everybody's healthy, the X factor for the Celtics, in my opinion, would be Porzingis and Holly. Porzingis one because again, who's gonna guard the Twin Towers of Mobley and
mhm,
Allen? You can't put Derek White or Jason
yeah,
Tatum or Brown on them. They're gonna just again dominate the paint. Al Horford, he's older guy, he can't keep up with them. So I think Porzingis for the Boston Celtics is the X factor.
mhm,
For the Cleveland Cavaliers, X factor is gonna have to be Darius Garland. Again, last year, first time All Star, he's been a little, I would say, like inconsistent. Where some games, like, oh, he's looking like a top 3 point guard in the East, and in some games he's looking
mhm,
like a bottom 3 point guard in the East. So those are two X factors. But again, matchups is the most important thing. And I was gonna be a 7 game series. I might just give the small edge because again, Cleveland Cavaliers is gonna have home court advantage. That's gonna play a part. And
mhm.
two, again, that if Darius Garland can have a decent game, I think he'll be able to, and he's able to outplay Drew Holiday. I got to give it to Cleveland, man. But it's very, very tough. Very
Yeah,
tough.
yeah.
Very
I I agree. I do think Porzingis would be the overwhelming X factor for the Celtics. Because again, right, someone's got to sit on Jared Allen,
tough. Hmm.
um, and even Evan Mobley. Tatum, I think, can do an okay job with Mobley because Mobley has expanded his game a little bit to not just be a inside the paint guy. And Evan Mobley also isn't the he's not built like Giannis, right? He's still a relatively thin guy. He still sometimes take some jump shots. So and obviously, right, Al Horford is there who will, have his time against some of the bigs, but I agree. I think Porzingis, just having a big body down there, because again, when you have Mobley and Allen, two great rebounders, like we just talked with the Houston and Duke game, Cavs would get a lot of second chance opportunities on a team like Boston because again, we don't have really great our best rebounder is Tatum, and he's one of our forwards. So Tatum will have to really rebound his ass off that series, like getting like 12 a game.
Mhm.
Porzingis would have to get near around at least 10 a game, assuming he's healthy and playing 30 minutes a game. But I think that Drew and Derek White, even Jalen Brown, I think they've got enough to throw at Garland and Mitchell. Defensive wise, again, Mitchell can go off. We've seen Mitchell drop multiple 50-point games in playoff series before. Darius Garland is one of the shiftiest players in the league, and no matter how good of a defender you are, he gets free.
Mhm.
He's given us some problems in this regular season, especially when we have guys like Payne Pritchard and Sam Hauser in there. They're probably going to pick on them, even if they get Horford or Luke Cornett switched on to them. Garland will chew them out. Donovan Mitchell's a fast guy. He'll get by them or he'll go right over them and try and dunk on you if you want.
Mhm.
But I agree with Garland being the X factor for Cleveland too, because right, Donovan Mitchell is going to be the main focus as he should be. Um, he's a top, 12 player this season with how he's been playing. He might be the best shooting guard in the league this year. And um, we played them. The Celtics played them last year in the second round. It was pretty much a similar team. They obviously didn't have DeAndre Hunter, and
Mhm.
obviously they had a different coach. So it's while it is pretty much the same pieces, it's a differently ran team. So you can't even really treat it too much of the same as it was last year. So honestly, we'll see. I mean, I think even Evan Mobley was hurt last year in the playoffs too. But I think I'm gonna be a homer and I'm gonna pick my Celtics if that series happened. I think it would go no less than 6 to 7 games. Like I don't see a world where Boston, just sweeps them or goes in 5 like last year that like they did to most teams. And I don't see a world where Cleveland just dog walks us either, because again, these are two very hard teams. You gotta beat 4 times out of 7.
Mhm.
And I mean, sure, Cleveland's been the best record team in the East this year, but again, the Celtics are the reigning champions. They have one thing that gets overlooked with past champions is when teams win a championship, they normally have guys that go get a bag and for a different team in that off season, and they lose some pieces, and then that's why a lot of teams can't repeat. Like if we look at Denver, they lost KCP. Um, now that was
That
this
was
off season.
yeah, that was last year. They lost
They
Bruce
lost
Brown.
Bruce Brown. They lost
Yeah.
Bruce Brown, yep. Um, the Warriors, I mean, they didn't really lose anything I mean, they lost, like, Otto Porter and some things like that, but, I mean, Kevon Looney kinda has been worse. I mean, who won before that? The Bucks, they eventually ended up losing Drew Holiday. They've had injuries. So, like, normally when a team wins, they've got some role players that go out and get a bag. While the
Mhm.
Celtics, that didn't really happen to us. We've got all of our same guys. The only guy we lost was O'Shea Brissett, and he didn't play anything for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
So, and we got we got Torrey Craig at the deadline, who's been playing some minutes for us too. But I mean, the Celtics are the same team, and honestly, even though I'm sure everyone's a year older, it doesn't change that much to me. I think the Celtics are still, the hardest team to beat in a 7-game series in the league,
Mhm.
just because of the shooting, amount that they shoot and the clip that they can hit it at, and their versatility. Porzingis mid range, Tatum and Brown can get to the cup if they need to. Drew Holiday plays dunker spot as a 6'4" guard sometimes. So, and then obviously we've got maybe the sixth man of the year in Pritchard off the bench, and maybe the most durable over 35-year-old man in the league that's not LeBron James and Al
Yeah,
Horford. So,
yeah, that's true.
but so are you giving me a final pick, Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Cleveland
go.
your
Oh,
final
yeah,
pick?
OKC versus Cleveland.
Okay. Who win? Okay, so who's winning that finals matchup?
OKC. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Thunder.
It hurts me. I think I agree, even with the Celtics in the finals, especially if Jadam and Chet are both healthy there and playing like their normal 30 35 minutes a game that they need to play. Chet always plays his ass off versus the Celtics. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he sees Porzingis, who play. They're like brothers. They play the exact same way. They're
Yeah.
they're like the same build. I don't know if it what I don't know what the reason is, but Chet always has a great game when he plays against us, whether it was last year or it was this year, even with him dealing through injuries. I think OKC has the defensive tools to lock down both teams, or Boston, because they've got Lou Dort, they've got J Dub, they've got Caruso. Shea's not the worst defender. They got Chet and Hartenstein, so they could match up versus Cleveland's two bigs if they needed to. And if I'm being honest, I'm picking Chet and Hartenstein over Mobley and Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Same.
as the two bigs, on paper together. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, that doesn't mean that that just automatically wins them the series, but I think there's more versatility there. And again, I think I don't know. I think that it just that team matches up so well, and it is so hard to pick Cleveland or Boston in the conference finals. But no matter what, I think OKC might have it this year. As much as it pains me to not stick with my team, but
Hey, at least you're fair in your analysis. Some teams like, no, I'm going down with the
yeah,
ship, or going all the way. But yeah, man, I think it's OKC time. I think it's OKC
yeah.
time.
And if it's their time and they win this year, oh man,
Forget about the league's in trouble.
oh man, I don't know, because they're gonna obviously re-sign J-Dub and Chet. I don't know. They might. I don't know. They might get two. They might get two or three in a row if they really stick to it. Don't get championship fatigue, and they really just go go go. I think they're going to be the best team in the league for the next 4 or 5 years, unless something. Now that's hard to say because the league looks completely different after 1 year.
Hmm.
But I don't know what they do. And say a star wants to be traded to them at the deadline or something, they can make it work with all they could trade for anybody they wanted to with the picks they have and the younger talent they have. Their 12th overall pick, Nikola Jokic, hasn't stepped on the court once this season.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he's a jumbo playmaking guard too. I mean, we obviously don't know what he is at the pro level, but we haven't we haven't seen him play yet. So I think it's the Thunder's to win this year, but I do think that either of those two teams out east could win. So,
Yeah, I agree.
all right, we'll end it how we always do.
All right, let's get to it.
Um, we'll do our team game. Again, for anyone that doesn't know, I give Worlds a minute to name off as many people as he can on this team, and we will, once we do all 30 teams, we'll say what team he did the best on, and what team he needs to do some more homework on.
All
But
right.
he hasn't struggled too much yet, so hopefully one of these teams will stump him. So
Hopefully
we'll
not.
do this week. We got the Trailblazers.
Okay. Oh, god damn. I don't know. Shit. Portland Trailblazers.
Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Obviously, Anthony Simons. Oh, Donovan Clingan, Scoot Henderson. Those are the young guns. I think Shaden Sharp was on there. That guy, he's something like foreigner. Denji or Denny Avidija. I don't know how you pronounce
Yeah,
his name.
I got
I
you.
think DeAndre Ayton, of course. Jeremy Grant, that guy they sent has got a lot of money. Robert Williams III, he used to be a former Celtic. They got the other Murray, I believe his name is Kyle Murray. I think Matisse Tybel's on the team because he used to play for the 76ers. Jabari Walker, I believe. Dope something. Dope Death. Dope Reef, I think his name. Dope DOP. I forgot. I don't know. And
Wreath. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. And I don't know. I think that's it.
Yeah. All right. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 12. I think 12. I think you got everyone. I mean,
Oh,
everyone.
okay.
I think. Well, everyone you named is 100% right. Um, I mean, Jabari. I always get Jabari Walker mixed up with the. Yeah, okay, it is Jabari Walker. Duop. Yep. Um, you missed Tumani Kamara.
Who the fuck is that?
Oh, you're not tapped in.
I don't know who that is.
He's
Man.
like he's another one of those prototype players I'm talking about with the Thompson
Oh, okay.
twins and stuff. He's got a better jump shot than the Thompson twins, but
Okay.
uh he might get some defensive second team buzz. He won't make it, I don't think, but
Oh,
he will get some defensive second team buzz. All right, 12 for the Trailblazers. I think is 12 ties your worst with a couple of different teams. So
okay.
again, it's not bad though. 12. I mean, yeah, really, if you get anything under 10, that's kind of where it's like, you know, you because you miss somebody, you know, that was you know, that obviously plays meaningful ball to them. So, but that was a good episode. I think next week
All
we'll
right.
have I'm sure next week we'll have a long episode with how playoffs. Maybe we'll talk about our final award.
Oh
Our
yeah.
awards again, since that'll cap off the regular season. So
Mhm.
I think there we go. We're good.
All right. All right. So yeah, no, not the worst, not the best, but all right. Well, that is it for another episode of Hoops All In. If you guys are new, also don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel at Hoops All In. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to Keith YouTube channel, Keith HAI. Also, don't forget to listen to the audio version of the podcast at Hoops All In on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or wherever you stream your daily or weekly podcast. For Wells Francois and Keith Bazin signing off for another episode of Hoops All In. We'll catch you guys next time. Stay tuned.